Welcome to the podcast this morning, Dr. Ansari. Great to have you on here. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the deeper questions?
Thank you very much, David, for your time. Yes, I have been in the industry for more than 2 decades. Whole idea was related to my study when I was in early days. Father was using a chemical pesticide, and I had no clue what he's doing. But I have seen devastation, impact of pest and diseases those were causing to his crop was my crop as well. But some season I saw that he lost all his crop. And I was growing very much in early days, in a 7 8 years basically when I was seeing all this. So I couldn't thought what I can do. But then he has a passion to send me agricultural college to study and solve the problem. And he did. So I went in a agriculture college basically as thoughtful agricultural BSc agriculture, and I studied all these pest diseases and all those kind of things which is causing serious problem to our agricultural crop. When we say agricultural crop is not only um, um, agriculture, but there are turf and amenity, that problem. Then in the forestry, and there are some area like landscaping and others. So that's where I started, and then I went through my journey towards higher education. I landed up in Belgium doing my PhD, and I think that was the time when I become more familiar with the world, I kind of things, how the world basically perceiving the biological solution for sustainable agriculture. It was the early 2000. So I finished my PhD and I did some work, and then I joined Swansea University in 2005. And that was a time when I was very much into commercial world from the academia and seeing things like that. But still, I continued my academic works for a few years before I had a project that was a total commercial. So I developed a product that was commercialized in 2009, but that was a part of a company. And that product has to do with controlling vine weevil in horticulture industry. That was very successful product that was launched in the UK 2009. And then all the growers and farmers, growers actually in horticulture industry, they were start using because almost they lost a few chemicals. They didn't had any option. So these are the very briefly where I'm coming from. And since then, I have been striving very hard when I left academia in 2012. And it was very much, I was tired, sick and tired with publication, another thing, with some of the bureaucratic things as well, in the being the lab and not going outside. So I thought let's do something different, and that's where I founded the Bionema in 2012. Obviously, sometime later I will explain the other painful journey, but I think today is more about focusing on particular aspect. So I founded a company, and then I developed first product that was a nematode for controlling Chafer Grubs and the leather jackets in turf industry. Was very serious problem. It was on time because chlorpyrifos, which was a very well-known chemical used to control these two pests and widely used. But because of their toxic impact on the human health and the environment, the product was banned by European Union and then UK as well. So what impact happened on pet population gone 3 4 folds because of the unavailability of a right kind of chemical or the right of product, right kind of product. So this is very briefly, but there are a lot of scenario attached with my journey from academia to entering in a business, and why I'm here today. But maybe we'll talk sometime later.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, the whole journey started from a family challenge. So
Yeah.
it's probably deep rooted in your heart.
very deep rooted, and I have recently interviewed with a few other media, and where I have opened very in detail the reason why I started, and what is my mission for reducing the 50% chemical pesticide in the next 5 to 10 years. But again, there are other challenges where main challenge we see that lengthy and costly regulatory process. Uh, but we are getting there. It's just uh, another series of hurdles created by the multinationals and the bureaucratic governments. Those are very much close to the using the chemical pesticide.
Yeah.
Not forgetting, our population is increasing. World population is going to reach more than 9 point some billion by 2050. So we need food production to high level, but not at any cost. But what we are seeing today is at any cost, means use the hell of chemical, and those are devastating to our soil health, humans, and the environment. So this has to be reduced. This has to be a substantially reduced in order to bring the food production safer for our next generation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so there's a whole purpose behind what you're doing. A lot of businesses start because they have an idea and they want to make some money, so they start selling a product. But your driver is completely different.
Yeah.
Yours
I
is
mean, you
changing the
you
world
you
for
had a 30
everybody.
years experience in your journey, and when I saw that you successfully exited from that business, so I think it's a very painful journey, but it's the passion drive you actually, nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Ansari, you're the founder and CEO of Bionema and a leading voice in the biological pest control industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and what inspired you to focus your career on sustainable alternatives to chemical pesticides?
Yeah. So thank you very much, David, for this one. I have already covered in my introductory in an introduction. I think this is all about my passion moving towards reducing the use of chemical pesticide to at extent it's become more um, a kind of usable in even not only the farmers growers are using, but in retail market as well. At the moment, if you look into the industry using pesticide for 100 years and the fertilizers, the total market somewhere reaching both together is more than 240 billion globally. So this is
Wow.
a big market, whereas the biologicals are slowly coming into the market. Biologicals have started more coming in the market in 2010 onwards. And there
Yeah.
is a lot of interest from the multinational other. So I have a two-way basically to tackle. The one, obviously those are attached to find my mission where I can bring a solution for farmers, greenkeepers, foresters, and who are basically looking for alternative solution. And as you mentioned that solutions are already there at Bionema, but his challenge is to waiting for regulatory hurdle in Europe and even in the UK, it taking more than 6 to 7 years, which is not sustainable.
Yeah, it's a long time. Um, so obviously your business has lots of different activities going on, but today we're going to be really talking about Chafer Grub and leather jacket. Can you just talk me through what they are and what is really the risk or the damage that they cause?
Yeah, so I think let's thrash all time for talking about the leather jackets and Chafer grubs. So the leather jacket is a larvae of crane fly. So the crane fly is very popular. There are 303 species in the UK, and there are two primary species cause serious problem in the UK. So the one species specific to the turf industry, and the one is specific to cereals and others. So they have a 1 year life cycle. So they start very much adults start flying in early September, Then within a month, they start egg laying, and the egg hatch very quickly by end of September, and then tiny larvae hatch from the eggs, and it doesn't eat anything, but in early days it survive on the dead organic materials for a week or two before it gets juicy root system, and it start basically becoming more enlarging during the winter time. So the winter time is very difficult as well, when greenkeepers and sports basically are very in dormant period, so they thrive in the soil. And when it's become early, I would say the February and March, you will see the devastation. So by the time they will come to the stage three, so from a stage one to a stage three, and a stage three is the bigger larvae. So they are basically more than I would say the 1.5 centimeter. And then the greenkeepers actually start noticing when the birds are coming and uprooting the infected area, and that's basically called a secondary damage caused by the birds and others. So it's not the leather jacket is causing problem, but secondary damage is more devastating and unrepairable. So you just imagine that morning time, golfers are coming and hitting their balls to the greens, and they're noticing a lot of digging. Dig holes, and they become sometimes very upset what is going on, because it affect their balls when it's rolling. So their target is not meeting as well. The other aspect is that if the fields being sprayed with chemical pesticide, so the golfer don't like as well to touching the ball, which even smell. So there are two area where the greenkeepers and the leather jackets devastating. So from the March onwards, they will cause a serious problem until July. And so this is time when they can apply nematodes or any other product as well. In August, again, the older instar larvae enter into pupae, and within a month, then the September again they start flying. So this is a 1 year life cycle in the UK, but there are a number of species I have seen recently appearing in the different golf courses, and the greenkeepers have no clue actually how many species they got. And this is a serious problem in industry. Unfortunately, there are few organizations who are basically working, but I'm sorry to say that, but this is a very serious gaps in the industry. Number of species, when they are coming, how to control them, how to identify them, all those areas are vacuum. But thank God we are here to help them if they need.
So traditionally, how would that problem have been treated, and what are your findings from all the research and time that you've put into this?
Excellent question. The first one, traditionally, they have been used, they were using chemical pesticide, and one was the chlorpyrifos, and which was banned in 2016 in the UK. So I have a very nice data for pre and post, and if I show them that, you will just surprise. So from let's say the field where chlorpyrifos was applied, the population was less than 30 grubs per square meter. But now, if you go to some of the golf course, you will find 6 to 700.
Wow.
That population gone.
Yeah.
So actually, there is no solution at the moment. There are one chemical available, which again is basically not very satisfactory, hit and miss. Whereas the biological solutions are there. For example, the one I developed, nematode, a tricomponent solution where nematodes were applied with a biocompatible wetting agent. And we have demonstrated in several golf courses is that those the nematode did succeeded in reducing the population. And that product was acquired by later on Syngenta. But recently we have launch a NemaGen. So this NemaGen is a new generation of a native nematodes species coming from the UK, Wales, and Scotland. And these nematodes are being formulated to see in order to see their native action those are not basically exported from anywhere else, and we are producing here in a Swansea. So these are going to applied in a field. There are other nematodes in the market as well, but as I mentioned, we are facing serious problem because of the soil temperature, and we always have a wet and windy. And for biologicals, there are some limitation as well. So you need a certain temperature. That's where biological works. So even though they are very good products, I would say the excellent. If you apply it in an optimum temperature, they will almost kill it 80-90%. But in condition uh, where wet and windy and the soil temperature is less than 10 degree temperature here in the UK, the problem is different. So our recommendation always is that apply when the soil temperature is more than 10 degrees centigrade from March onwards until July. So this is then again the industry people, those are there basically, they're not aware, and we're trying to continuously telling them to apply in June, July rather than very early. But problem is early damage caused by the larvae, and they actually almost looking for control that time. And but there is no cold tolerance nematode available in the market which can go in the 5 or below the 10 degrees centigrade.
And do you think that's possible in the future, or do you think that that's the way it's going to be?
So so far the discovery is limited. There are nematodes, and the one we have just launched, they can act from 8 degrees centigrade. There are no other nematodes in turf industry which can work. There is one nematodes which is from the other company which can work from 1 to 30 degrees centigrade. But that's designed for other pest control, not for the chafer grubs and the leather jackets. When you go more detail, the chafer grub and the leather jackets are very tough cookies, very difficult pest to control. So I've just explained a bit about leather jacket, but I want to tell you a little bit about the chafer grubs. So the chafer grubs are also called the white grubs. So they're very tiny, 1 to 1.5 centimeter. They are found in the turf, in ornamental crops as well. And funny enough, when I came here in the UK in early 2005, and until now, I have data as well that population has increased. So in 2005, people were worried about a Welsh Schaefer. So the Welsh Schaefer is very populated here. Everywhere you can find, and they're about 80%. And during my visit to the few golf course, people were telling me that, look, this is a June beetle, or they were misidentified this nematodes. And since this was a part of my PhD, actually, so I was the one who invented the whole website, the life cycle. So I said, no, this is something different. So actually, the first time when we started the Grove was basically our starting point, and within 3 years, actually, we were able to control all 100% basically free from the Chafer grubs now.
Wow.
Then we start noticing is that four different species start coming. So there is other species called the amphimalon. It's a summer chafer. The May beetles. It's a May beetle is very difficult one. They're also coming in the turf industry. If the May beetle population increases, then it will be very difficult to control because they are 3-4 times bigger and stronger than the Welsh chafer and other chafer grubs. So this is another way we need a lot of knowledge here, which chafer species, because some of them have a 2 years life cycle and some of them have only 1 year life cycle. So it's very important to go through all those in more detail in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So you've done extensive research on the life cycles of these pests. Why
Yeah.
do groundkeepers, greenkeepers, turf managers need to understand their biology when planning their control strategies for the year?
Very good question. So each single insect species have a stage, like us. So we start with very juveniles, and then we grow, become teenager, and adult, and old. It's exactly the same, like more or less like the insects as well. So the early and star are very susceptible. So the greenkeepers and the sportsmen should be looking to controlling early instar larvae rather than the late instar larvae. So the early instar larvae are more vulnerable, they are more weak, they easily can be controlled with chemical and biologicals, and that's what our recommendation always is, that apply some pest. Those have like for example the Chafer Grubs, the recommendation is start from July onwards. And for leather jackets, there are two windows. One you apply in the end of early October, and then start applying again from March onwards. Uh, so the two windows are there, and the field you might find both together. So sometime it's better as well that the nematode you are applying for Chafer grubs can reduce some population of Chafer grubs as leather jacket as well.
So the answer really is to be proactive and start earlier and not have such a big problem later on in the year.
Yeah, I think this is unfortunately in the industry. I presented a few places, and where I have included slides, proactive and reactive. So the proactive, you hit that point. Yes, we have to be more proactive rather than reactive. But unfortunately, industry is only reactive. So the greenkeepers only get excited or get annoyed when they see the birds comes and start picking or their greens, and they say, what is happening now? We might have some problem inside. But it's very simple. If they take some soil sample every month, then they will be basically tracking the population, and they will reach out to us or anybody else and say like, look, we have some problem, can you come and see us? So basically our technical staff will go and will see it. This is the way it is going to be. If not, then they are going to face a serious problem.
Say for instance, I was a greenkeeper or a turf manager, I could send you a soil sample and you'd be able to analyze that and help me
Well, you,
solve the
you
problem.
just send me the picture from your mobile, and I can identify the which species of the leather jackets or which species of the Chafer groups you got, and then I can advise what to do.
Wow. So just
Yeah,
from an image, you can do that.
just for the picture.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, obviously we've discussed about chemicals. Why are they no longer the answer to this problem? Traditional chemical pesticides are being banned and restricted. What's the reason and rationale behind that? And what are the limitations of chemical control when it comes to soil pests, like the two that you've discussed, Chafer grub and leather jacket?
I think the chemicals are basically historically used in the agriculture for productivity and controlling. But because of some of the chemicals are very toxic to soil health and the human health as well, and those has been scrutinized. So the governments like EU and had basically put some restrictions, and that was the reason for removal of the chlorpyrifos from there. So there are a number of other chemicals like imidacloprid is banned as well because of impact on the bees, which is a serious contribution to our farming, which is about the more than a few billion worth of the pollinators, saving that one. So I think in next 10 years, you are going to see a lot of reduction in chemical pesticide. But unfortunately, the way the chemical are phasing out, it's not coinciding with biopesticide or alternative solution in the market. So what option here or suggestion would be that the way the biopesticide are phasing out, the same rate the biopesticide should be coming in the market so they can fill the gaps in the market. If they are not coming, then there is a vacuum. And that's what happened after removal of chlorpyrifos, that there was no chemical in the market and greenkeepers with left with no option actually. So they want to apply, they want to protect their field, they want to see the greens are basically flourishing, but unfortunately they don't have a number of options. So if any company is bringing a new chemical, it takes quite long time as well, registration and other process. So unfortunately, we don't have any option for particularly for these two pests in turf industry, except nematodes. Those are basically can do a good job.
Okay, and that's a great link on to the next question that I have for you, which is Talking about the solution, the superpower of nematodes. How did it work, and what makes them such a powerful biological tool against these pests?
Yeah, so nematodes are first discovered and commercialized in 1980s in Australia, and since then there has been a lot of research. There are hundreds of species identified around the world. They are tiny worms. They're about half a millimeter to 1 millimeter, less than a millimeter. They are very much like the very very tiny worms, if you have seen that one, but they can't. You can see with the naked eye if you are in facing the light. So, and they're the beauty is that these nematodes are in soil. So you simply uh, have to identify them and see if they can work for the different species. So that each nematode have a specific target. There are not a single nematode which can target leatherjackets, Chafer Grubs, bind weevil, and other. So you have four different nematodes which is commercialized today in the UK and the EU market. Those have a different target, but they're very tiny. They basically live in the soil. So they enter through the natural openings of insect, such as anus, aspiracles, and mouth. And once they enter inside, then they release the bacteria which they are carrying in their gut, which is not known by the any people.
Yeah.
But nematodes are just a carrier, but it's a bacteria which is killing the insects. So when they vomit, uh, uh, let's say a few number, there is a number as well, up to 2000 cells of bacteria. And those bacteria, as soon as they vomit inside the insect, for example, leather jacket or Chafer grubs, those bacteria start multiplying. But there is a lot of defense in both sides. It's very much like somebody's breaking your room and entering and basically taking control. So the household will try their best, like the insect in this case, to defend, but they are defeated because of the toxic substances coming from the bacteria, and those will kill it within 24 to 48 hours, actually, if the temperature is right. So, what happened then? They will reproduce continuously there until the food available. So they will eat so all bacteria will do, they will eat all the dead carcass of the insects, and then they will basically increase their number. And those nematodes are around, they will start eating those bacteria. They will start growing. So from the teenager to juvenile, so it's called the juveniles, the tiny one. Then they will go to become adults and male and female. Then they will basically, the next generation will start. But just to tell you, after killing, there will be, so the only one or two nematodes you need, but
Okay.
the nematodes are applied 25 to 50 nematodes in per area. So the nematodes number is quite high. But once they kill it, they will reproduce. And from two nematodes, they will reproduce 100 to 200,000 nematodes.
Wow.
And those nematodes then will start coming from the dead insects, and they will start looking for fresh one. So that's where their persistence life cycle start revolving. So the dead, they're looking for the fresh one. So it's very much like circular economy kind of things. So they will start looking for the fresh one. So if you keep that system going on, you won't have any insects in your soil.
So it becomes its own ecosystem almost.
Exactly. So it's the ecosystem there. But there are several parameters. They are safe to the human, safe to the environment. They cannot be applied with chemical pesticide. There's no issue at all. All you need to apply them precise way, storing them below 10 degrees temperature. But that's what we are here to provide them the service as when and how to apply. So those are the area, but they're brilliant, not for Chafer grubs and leather jacket. They can kill more than 60 different insect pest species in a different crops.
Wow. That's incredible. Um, yeah, really, really interesting how things are changing and how the industry has evolved over time. Um, so you were very successful and you created a product and you sold it historically. You've now launched a new product. called NemaGen. Can you just walk me through or walk us through how it works, what the technology is, and
So
the effectiveness in the soil?
yeah, so nematodes are, as I mentioned, naturally occurring in a soil. So you can basically collect them and find which one is the best for which insect. So it's a continuous process for our research. We are a biocontrol technology developer. So we basically keep doing research and finding the better solution to the market. So this is the next generation means the nematodes are isolated from a golf course, isolated from a turf industry, the turf environment, they're isolated from a forest. So uh, it's native species. So these native species will make sense that they can work in the low temperature as well. As I explained you, there is a lot of constraint about the temperature and how they're going to work. Most importantly, we have formulated them differently, so their shelf life has increased, and their persistence will be better as well. But finally, is that the nematodes applied with using a soil jet. So you just imagine that if you throw a nematodes in a water on greens, so it's very much you are throwing on the carpet, and there is nowhere basically those nematodes can penetrate, and through that the dead grass, it's called the thatch layer as well in the turf
Yeah.
industry. So we basically help allow the nematode to move fast. They penetrate very quickly and then hunt down the larvae or population those are sitting below the thatch layer, below the grass, basically, which is 1 or 2 inch below. So these are all have been designed in way to maximize their efficacy. So that's all about. It's called the multi-phase action. So these nematodes are, some of them can look for nematodes. They can walk and hunt down. Some nematodes are waiting for for insects to come down and attack. So we have crafted those way that which nematode is needed for which insects. So this is our one of the, I would say, proprietary uh, proprietary way of the designing is that how we design basically so that they are not mixing, and then end user get the right nematode for right kind of insect to control.
And that's NemaGen, and that's your
That's
latest product, yeah?
that's an NemaGen launch in the BTME this year.
Okay, brilliant. From a real world impact, obviously on your website, I read that you've got a case study from the Grove and Neath Golf Club. Could you share some success stories and highlight the impact
Yes.
of this biological
So
approach?
So then in early days when we started the first nematodes, there was a lot of trial done in different golf courses, race courses, football pitches as well. But the group was a successful one alongside other as well. Uh, and the group story is a little bit very much more than reality is that they lost 80 grants due to the Chafer Grubs infestation, and they were very much moving towards sustainability. And they don't want to go through the chemical route. And they contacted us. I visited, and I discussed with them a 3 years program. By the end of 2019, there was no leather jacket. So that was a success story. Same happened with Neath Golf Club, which is very close to me here in Swansea, where I'm sitting, about 3 miles. I come to know through one of my colleague who was playing golf there, and he said, Minshad, I have seen a lot of problem there. The groups were walking while we are playing or hitting the balls. And he introduced me to the greenkeepers, and I met, and I basically lay out my plan. And I explained that, look, this is a way we have controlled Chafer Grubs at the Grove, and we are going to control leather jacket in your Neath Gold Club there. So this was very quick, actually. Within 12 months, we were able to control all the population, and basically clubs never came back to us. So it is a very,
You'll have to find other
very,
products to sell
yeah,
once you solve the
we
world problem.
lost the client actually.
You
But
probably did too good a job.
yeah, but anyway, I mean, we have other products, I mean, in the market as well for for root vita and other things, which we'll talk later on. Those products are designed for plant health, turf health management as well.
Okay, well, so obviously, is this still in early adoption mode, as in, when people don't like change, and some people don't like to make decisions, fear of failing or fear of getting things wrong. So, what are the barriers overcoming the adoption to the new style of treating this problem?
I think this is a very good question, and um, change is difficult. People, as you mentioned, that they are skeptical, and they think that whether or not it's going to work, and they have been using products for last 10 years. So my here suggestion is that just try and see what happened. If you are using a product for last 10 years, you don't know what sort of results you are getting. Without a test, without a comparison, it's very difficult to know whether or not your strategy is working, which you are using for last 10 years. Number of greenkeepers are adopting. As I say, the group was very much they wanted to move to sustainable environment. There are a number of golf club here in the UK. Those are basically moving from the chemical pesticide to other. So there are some people who are more proactive and they are trying nematodes. But the mentality is very different. They want to have a quick fix like chemical pesticide. But we don't have now that. It's old days when they were, taking a product from the shelf and adding in it in a mixture and going and spraying. That days is gone now. So the nowadays is more about a sustainability towards how we can manage the whole turf ecosystem, where we can make the soil healthy. If the soil healthy, your population will reduce, your turf will be more resilience. So we are talking about more soil biology. And we, again, the Bionema is one of the leading companies where we have more than 500 different kind of microbials, and those microbials will help strengthen and increase the immune system of the plants, which means the plant will then fight with pests and diseases, as well as the leather jackets and Chafer Grubs, actually.
Got you. No, that's really interesting. And what about from a cost point of view? Um, is using your products versus chemical products a cheaper way of doing it, more expensive? You just alluded to the fact that, certain industries or clubs have used the same product for 10 years. Can these pests become immune to what they've been using? And is the chemical just a very short-term fix? It's a reactive fix rather than what you're suggesting, which sounds like it's more about managing the eco lifestyle and the turf health on a long-term basis, but will reduce the problem significantly.
You hit another very important question. Chemicals do become resistant against Chafer grubs, jackets, or any other. So research showed that more than 600 different insect species has become resistant to different insecticide and pesticide. So they do exist, but there are none of the reports says that biologicals become resistant. So this is the beauty in biologicals. They keep applying, keep using. They will do better. As I mentioned, that the recovery same happened to other microbials as well. They will replicate and they will make your soil full of the microbes, full of the things. Those are basically a goodies which will help your plant thrive and will fight with pests and diseases. Chemical will never do this one. In terms of the cost, there is a misconception here. The chemicals are cheaper, but applied frequently. So the customer mindset is here that we are paying 100 pound per hectare, but they're applying 10 times. So how much is it become? 1,000 pound per hectare. Whereas the nematode costs 700 pound per hectare. You apply only once. So when you ask the customer, it's a 700 pound for per hectare, Oh my God, it's very costly. But they don't say that it's applied only once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly, it's just the way that the industry has made them to think. So the industry, chemical industry, sell the product cheaper, but they ask them to apply 10 times and 5 times basically. Not only the product cost, David, here, application cost,
I was going to say the
and
labor cost alone,
the
if you're
labor
doing it
cost,
10 times, is
10 times. So it will be a 2 to 3 times higher than chemical pesticide. But it's a delusion, a misconception fed in the industry that biological costs more than chemical pesticide. No, it is not.
well, I think if you looked at they're probably talking per treatment, it would be cheaper to do chemical, but overall, if you
Yeah.
calculated that over the period of a year,
Yeah.
the saving would be huge.
Yes, absolutely. So let's say, for example, leather jacket, you are applying um, in spring and the autumn. So the two application you have. Where the Chafer Grubs, you apply only once in a summer. So you have a one application. But if you're using a chlorpyrifos and other, or any other chemical, actually, I have seen, so there are multiple applications. So the multi application will cost chemical plus your application, which is the labor cost and other, and which is more than if you put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is all about the feeding, how basically the perception and the industry basically have been working, or basically they have almost adopted to using that. But they don't want to think out of the box,
Yeah.
and that's where we are coming and say, the guys, let's just think outside the box now.
And
The
it's
era,
about education, right?
it's
It's
about
about
education, and
understanding.
that's where, I mean, my whole life is about the training. And I said the one phrase is that no matter how brilliant your products are, it must be applied on right way and the right time.
Yeah.
Finish.
100%. So the industry, rightfully slow, rightfully so, is regulated. How would you like to see those regulations change? What do you think's needed to help the industry grow faster and improve to help the planet?
I think you have collected a very nice questions, David. I think this is I'm doing something for a long period of time. How we can change the uh, post-Brexit biopesticide regulatory reform in the UK. So I have other organization called the World Bioproduction Forum, and we started a campaign, and we were just explaining the regulators that what can be done and what can't be done, how the other countries are doing as well. In terms of the regulations, obviously they're tightening, and the regulation is good, made for good, get for safety. So no uh, confusion here. I always support the regulation, but there should be a time frame. You are not waiting for 6 years to 7 years for a biopesticide to register. That's what the European Union is doing. In the same product time frame in the US is 24 months. In Canada, 24 months. Brazil is only 12 months now. So why UK is lagging behind? What is the reason? Is that
That's a
they
great
are
question. What
they
is
are
the reason?
basically why they're not attracting the foreign companies to come and register the product in for a UK market. They simply don't want to come to the UK because the UK regulatory system is not fit for their purpose. Now,
That's opening a whole different can of worms.
whole debate. This week, National Action Plan came out after 5 years of delay, and I have written two reaction to from the industry point of view, where I have pointed my frustration is that there was nothing said about biopesticide registration timeline, which is taking long. So
Yeah.
there are very few products in the market. Now, if regulations are not going to change, then we are not going to see many products in the market. And these farmers, growers, greenkeepers will have no or very limited tools in their hand to utilize, whether for the pest control or for the disease or plant health. What will happen consequently? The productivity will decrease, and that will cause a serious problem in a whole economy.
Yeah.
In terms of the nematodes, the good news, nematodes don't need registration. So nematodes are exempted from the registration because of their safety to the human. They don't cause any diseases. They don't cause anything else. But there are other biologicals. Those are uh, subject to registration.
Yeah. Okay. That brings us on to our last question, really. The future of farming and turf care. Where do you see it going over the next 5 to 10 years? And could biologicals like nematodes become the standard in the industry across turf, horticulture, and even agriculture?
Yeah, so the very good. There are two things here, David. The one is a plant health, and then other product for pest and disease control. Now, the pest and disease control where pesticide being used, and plant health where fertilizer is used. Now, the UK government is coming very good compared to the other. They have set their net zero and the reduction towards fertilizer, which is looking good. So they want to reduce 25% synthetic fertilizer by 2034. This national action plan, which came this week, they want to reduce 10% pesticide in next 5 years, which is not basically very high ambition, but nevertheless, they are thinking towards and they're recognizing. So what we're going to see in the future is that more and more biologicals are going to come in the market. So market from 2010 and until now, when you see from 1 billion to 14 billion market today. So
Wow.
that's what happened from 2010 and 2024. So that's where the biologicals are basically progressing. But there are serious problem of registration and controlling as well. So this is another way we can we'll talk about how many biologicals are there. But in nutshell, the biocontrol or biopesticide used for controlling pests and diseases, and they have to go through the regulatory process, and that's where they are delaying because of the timeline. The biostimulants and biofertilizers are designed for uh, uh, reducing the fertilizers. So biostimulants and biofertilizer, there are many products in the market. In the UK, unfortunately, they are not regulated.
Right.
So unfortunately, many people, even the small player or big player, they hold a number of products, but those products are not to the highest standard. So that's where the industry is failing here. Yes, we have 10 biostimulants, but what? Are those biostimulants are going to help or provide benefit to the farmers in cereals or potatoes or greenkeepers and other? So yes, there are some issue as well, which is not for us to solve, but it's a policymaker and government to look into it and see that look guys, this need to go through the regulatory process as well. And I'm happy that I can support that one. I don't want that any product comes without a scrutiny. It has to go through the full range of testing, efficacy testing, and after that, basically given permission. But not taking 5 years. It has to be like 6 months or 3 months. So you test that product, and your product comes in the market, and then greenkeepers will have alternative product which they can use. So we are going to see a very drastic change in the next 5 years in different countries. Or unfortunately, every country have their own rules and regulation.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been very interesting. Obviously, you're at the cutting edge in the industry. If someone wants to get some advice or support or start stocking your products, how best do they get in touch with you? What are the steps for them to start that relationship with Bionema?
Yeah, so we have a 24/7 helpline, we have emails, we have a phone lines for and where our technical experts are available. And we receive the question from the different greenkeepers, sportsmen, managers. They're asking about all this, and we provide free of cost. So we encourage them to call or send email for any question, even whether or not they want to buy your product. But if they want to identify their pest, they can just send the picture, send the soil sample. We can do identification in free of cost. I really wants to help the industry. I want to see the problem is gone, not problem is persisting.
Yeah. And obviously you've got a free WhatsApp group for this industry that people can join. Again, it's free and where you'll be sharing,
I,
up-to-date information.
you hit another one very nicely as well. So we have created that WhatsApp group to help greenkeepers in this particular occasion, but we are going to create for cereals and horticulture growers as well. But we do have a WhatsApp group particularly dedicated for the greenkeepers or the sports related professional. Those basically wants to become a member, and they will get a free update, industry update, science and technology. The discussion is taking place there as well. I have some other WhatsApp group as well where we are basically not discussing about happy birthday and so on, but more about the technical elements, how we can solve the industry-wise problem.
Excellent. Dr. Ansari, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you, David.